I actually came up with another topic that I wanted to talk to you guys about. This also involves character creation, and this is sort of more in the further down the line when it comes to character creation. Obviously, you have to roll stats, you have to pick a class, you have to do stuff like that, but this involves your backstory. So when you're thinking of a backstory and you want to create something, you're not quite sure where to go, or inversely, you thought of a backstory, but you're not quite sure what class to go with. Here's where I offer a bit of advice. So when it comes to creating a class based on backstory, creating a character based on backstory, or creating a character based on class, let's give an example. I always play my characters out to level 20. The 20th level is the highest level that a player character can be. NPCs and other things can be higher technically, but if you're a player, that's 20th is the highest level you can get. That's 20 total. That doesn't mean like 20 in Barbarian and 20 in like Monk. It's 20. So you're talking about like 7 in Monk, 13 Barbarian, something like that. You know what I mean? Now, the way you plan out your levels is very simple. For me, I create backstories and I work it out from there. An example, I created a character who is a monk. He's a monk right now. Because of his backstory, he doesn't like drow. So I'm going to be taking 3 levels in monk. And after I get those 3 levels in monk, I'm going to be going for 3 levels in ranger. Because I'm picking elves as a favorite enemy. I'm picking the Underdark as a favorite terrain. When it comes to picking a type of enemy, it can be as broad as humanoids, which I'm like, oh, that's a lot of people, or it can be as like focused as like halflings or orcs or something like that. And I'm going with elves because elves, outside of like the sub races, they tend to be very similar in regards to their nature and just instinctual habits. So that's what a tracker is usually going off of. They're also all very like light-footed and stuff like that. So if you're tracking somebody, you're tracking an elf, you're really looking for things that only an elf would be able to do. Not necessarily any specific kind of elf, but an elf. And the Underdark would be a territory. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do a couple levels in Monk. Then I'm going to dip into Ranger because of my character's backstory. Dip into Ranger for 3 levels so I can get the Hunter subclass, and I'll get a couple first level spells, everything that sort of pertains to the character's backstory and like what they're sort of looking to do. And then I'd be going back to Monk for the rest of the levels. So 17 in Monk, 3 in Ranger. How did I decide that? In my character's creation, I said he came from a circus. He is a circus performer. He was a monk and sort of like this very dexterous acrobatic performer who he studied the martial arts in order to hone his body because he wanted to sort of make his body this weapon so the way he could go after somebody he's after. And that played into his acrobatics and his performance and stuff like that. Now, why the Ranger? Well, he particularly doesn't like drow. That's why I'm choosing elves as a favorite enemy. Ideally, my backstory would take us to the Underdark. Because again, of my character's backstory. So the Underdark is a favorite terrain. You'd be assuming that this character would have spent years or months studying the habits of elves and the Underdark and stuff like that. So that way, if he ever does get the opportunity, if his adventure's taken there, he is already prepared because he's sort of got this laser-focused mentality on this idea. Now that's pretty simple. I didn't give you too much on the backstory. I didn't go like too in depth, but essentially you've got, okay, you know why he's a monk. I chose Way of the Long Death because of his motivations. And so you know why he's a monk. You know why he's going to, like, why I dipped in Ranger. And if I had done that on the inverse, 17 in Monk, Way of the Long Death, 3 in Ranger for a favorite enemy, then it's like, oh, okay, I can work it, I can play it from there. So, if you're ever unsure, don't pick a race or a class just because I'm like, oh, this will be good. Really think about what the backstory should be because that's arguably the more important part. Because that's what you're going to be playing into a lot of the time. Yeah, for combat, class does matter, but balancing a party doesn't make a difference. Balancing a party doesn't make a difference. None of that stuff makes a difference. What makes a difference is how you can interact with the game and enjoy it. That's my advice. Definitely, if you have any questions, please ask. I'd be more than happy to elaborate. I also want to make sure that I filled you guys in on like a little bit of a simpler way to create characters. Instead of saying, all right, race and class and working from there, you can go backstory and then sort of figure that out. And then you can plot to level 20 and say, okay, I want to do, because of a character, I want to do 10 here, this here, and 7 here, and 3 here. And then why am I doing that? Oh, because of who my character is, or something like that. And it's okay if that changes in the long term. If it's like, you know what, I'm not going to be doing that because of the way the story's gone forward, that's okay. Because then you still know whether or not you're going to be sticking. Like if I'm like, oh, I'm going to do 13 levels in Fighter instead of just 10. You know, I'm going to do 13 levels in Fighter, and like, now I'm going to do 4 levels in Rogue and 3 in Hunter because of something else. Because something else has come up. You can still plot out, but the point is to always make sure that you have an idea going to level 20. Because if you don't, then you're sort of playing each session by each session and not really digesting the game. And that can sort of take the fun out of it for some people, because this is sort of, D&D is played very episodic, in a very episodic fashion. So you're really digesting these instances, like episodes of The Walking Dead. You're taking notes, you're thinking about, oh man, all this stuff happened. Holy shit. That's how it's supposed to be. The same way you would be like formulating theories or ideas or building like your own sort of headcanon. You're doing the same thing with your character. I hope this helped. Like I said, let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, shoot. And, thanks so much. Peace out.